Hey y'all, I'm Wilson. Welcome to my little shop here. I've been running the roads today and planing a little bit of alder earlier, making a big old mess. I don't have a dust collector, so I always got a mess to clean up. It is what it is. Anyway, I was bringing y'all in here today. I was going to show you this. This is a stool I did a video on. This is the finished product after it's all said and done, painted and ready to get it the hell out of here. I did a little video on how to build these. Just a little rough throw together project there. But anyway, it's a good introduction into compound angles. I cheated on these and they're just butt joints. But it's a good way to get you started thinking about compound angles. And I got to thinking about that, and I had some old crown laying around. I thought, what the hell? Let's do a video on cutting some crown. Compound angles right there. Anyway, normally I don't cut house crown. I do cabinets. I cut cabinet crown. It's a little bit different. Not really, but it is and it ain't. Anyway, if you want to cut house crown, you need to look at some of the trim guys' videos. They do that for a living. They know all the tricks. They know more about that than I do. I know how to cut crown. I've run crown in a house, but the real trim guys have got the tricks down for it, just like I've got the tricks down for building cabinets. But anyway, in a house, this is some crown right here I pulled out, old stick I had. It's just some coved crown. Got it set up like that. Got my saw here. We're ready to cut. I'm doing this flat just to show you how to cut it flat. Now you see you got those angles there on the back. You got the little numbers that are marked, 30, and then you got that little oval, what the hell kind of symbol there. I think, I can't remember my damn numbers, but I think that is 33 point something, whatever the hell. But anyway, it's got it right there, and it's got the same thing right here. You can see it's got the same symbols, it's different numbers. Those symbols there, you got those symbols there. You got a little half round symbol that matches up with the one up top, and the little whatever symbol that matches up with the other one. And you got the same thing over here. Anyway, let me set y'all up. Let me get y'all up on my little custom stand, and let's just play around with this. A lot of trim guys, if you're trimming houses, they're gonna cut it upside down. If they know what they're doing, that's generally the way they cut. A lot of times now I see people, they're going in, they're not doing any coping, they're just cutting it 45, 45, 45, bam, 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 putting it up. Old school guys, they used to cope theirs. And when they're doing trim in the house, they try to keep their saw set. They don't want to be moving it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So they'll get it set on the angle they need to cut for the inside corner, because your house, usually your rooms are 4 walls, square box. So what they'll do is the first piece they put up there square to square. The second piece, they cut the inside angle, cope it, put it up, run the other end square. That way they don't have to change their saw angle. They just leave it like that, bam, 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 run through a whole room until they get some oddball stuff. But that's for trim guys to tell you about. That's not something that I do. Like I say, trim guys, they got all their little tricks, just like I've got my tricks in cabinets. But anyway, as far as cutting, right now, I've got on that little half round symbol, and what that is, it's just a bevel and a miter that corresponds with the angle that your crown sits at. How it beds or I've heard people call it a spring angle. I'm not sure about the actual terminology. As long as I can do it, I don't worry about what it's called. But anyway, I've got the bottom of the crown right here. That way you can get your mark, because you're always marking on the bottom. Your bottom is your short side that goes into the point. Or on the inside, your bottom is the long side that goes into the point. On the outside miter, your bottom is the short side, but that's still the end of the wall where you need to measure to. Anyway, I've got this set up right here. I've got it set up on a little half round, and that corresponds with the angle that this crown is right here. So I've got it set up, and all you got is, I've got it upside down. The bottom's right here. I've got my saw turned this way and beveled, leaned over this way. This is going to be my bottom. So what I've just cut is my outside miter, one side of the outside miter. So I'm going to take, let's see, I'll cut it off of this one. Same way I've got the bottom. The bottom's got a special little detail that marks it for the bottom. Now I'm going to turn this over now. On these marks here, these are some of the standard marks. So they've got lock-in notches when it hits the one you want. But you need to have it corresponding on the same one. Now I turned my saw this way. So I'll need, this thing's gotten a little stiff. Still works good, it's a little stiff for turning. But I need to lean it that way. Lock it on my mark. Now, when you turn it, you lean it the same way. What happens if I lean the saw the other way and put it back on the other mark? That ends up turning the bottom of your piece to this. And you don't want that because it's hard to see the measurements. You want your bottom right here. Anyway, I've got that right there. This crown is almost too big for this saw. If you're cutting crown like this, you can use a smaller blade. If you got a slider, I've seen a lot of people that'll use a 10-inch slider to cut it. It works great. But like I say, most of my crown is cabinet crown, and it's a lot smaller. But anyway, that's the bottom of that. And that is your outside miter. I don't know if you can see it real good. It's kind of hard to hold these pieces. I should have cut them smaller. But anyway, that's your outside miter. Let's flip this thing back around to the bottom, leaving it set up like that. We take the other piece and we set up back over here. Basically, we're just going to the other side of the cut, doing the same thing, and that's our inside miter. Kind of hard to hold it, but that's our inside miter right there. Now, like I say, normally, a lot of the old trim guys I'm used to, on the inside miters, you run one piece all the way to the wall. That's my bottom. You run one piece all the way to the wall. You cut an inside miter, and then you come back and you cut. You back cut. You follow that miter line and cut that whole corner off right with that miter line. That's called coping, and then it'll just butt into the flat crown like that. You can push it a little bit and tweak it. If your wall's a little bit out, it's easier to tweak it to get it tighter that way. But anyway, we're just going to just the basics right here, right now. Just put to play around with. Something to goof off with. Now I'm going to put it back. I'm going to put it back, if I can get it to move, back on 0. And anytime you change it and set it back up on 0, you need to check it with a square, but just because I'm in the video right now, I'm not going to mess with it. Now, this is more like what I'm used to. This is a cabinet crown. It's a lot smaller crown. We always put it up pre-finished. You don't want to cut it upside down because your blade come down and chip that finish because your blade's turning that way. You want it face up. It'll cut into it without chipping the finish. Generally, something this small, we don't worry about cutting it flat. It's easier, so much easier to bed it like that. You've got a big flat spot right there. You bed that flat spot on the saw right there. And that is what it is. Now I've got this little thing set up on my table, so if I'm cutting a lot of crown, what I'm going to do is get me a long board that goes all the way across here. I'm going to hold this right where it needs to go. I'm going to take that board and I'm going to put it right here and here. I'm going to screw it down. I'm going to have a board going across here to where you can set this in, push it down, it hits that board, and there's no way that angle will change. Just a couple of pieces. This stuff is so easy to hold that I'll just hold it right in place. And then we're just dealing on what the angle is. You got a 90-degree angle. You cut 245s. You got a 45-degree angle. You cut to 22 and a half. And you bedded it on the saw, so that is. Then you've got your angle right there. I don't know if y'all, how well y'all can see that. I can't hardly see. I'm sweating to death. That shit's just rolling in my eyes. But anyway, that's just the basics. Now, if you cut cabinet crown, you notice I'm cutting it upside down because your bottom is where you need to measure to. And that's the way it sits on the wall right there. It's upside down. So if you're doing that, you've got to be able to think. You got to be able to think it out. Sometimes when you're doing it for the first time, it's best to set your saw up close to where you're going if you can. A lot of times you can't set the saw up inside the house, but if you can, set the saw up to where you can see what you're working with, and it'll make it a lot easier for you to transfer it to being upside down as opposed to getting a measurement and then going outside, cutting it and trying to think what was that again. But anyway, that's that. I appreciate y'all watching. I'm fixing to shut this thing down, turn my fans back on so I can quit sweating. And I will see y'all on the next one.